The morning sun had barely risen when Maya's phone rang, cutting through her much-needed sleep after a late night of studying. She groaned, reaching blindly for her phone on the nightstand. Her Aunt Sophia's name flashed on the screen. Maya sat up immediately, worry replacing her tiredness. Aunt Sophia never called this early unless something was wrong. "Hello? Aunt Sophia? Is everything okay?" Maya asked, her voice still raspy from sleep. "Maya, honey, I'm so sorry to call you like this." Sophia's voice sounded weak, punctuated by a deep, rattling cough. "I hate to ask, but I'm in a terrible spot." Maya got out of bed and started pacing her small apartment bedroom, the cool morning air making her shiver. "What's going on? Are you sick?" "It's this awful flu. I can barely get out of bed," Sophia explained between coughs. "And today of all days, the Meridian Grand has this huge conference starting. Every room will be filled with important people." Maya knew how much her aunt's job meant to her. After moving to this country 10 years ago, Sophia had worked her way up to a trusted position at one of the city's most luxurious hotels. The Meridian Grand was where the wealthy and powerful stayed when they came to town. "I can't afford to lose this job, Maya," Sophia continued, her voice cracking. "But I can't even stand up without getting dizzy." Maya glanced at her desk piled high with textbooks and notes for her environmental science midterm next week. She had planned to spend the whole day studying. But family always came first. That was how she'd been raised. "You need me to cover your shift?" Maya asked, already knowing the answer. The relief in her aunt's voice was immediate. "Would you? Just for today? I've never missed a day, so they'll be short-staffed already." "I'd owe you so much, honey." Maya checked the time. She had class at 8 a.m., but she could skip it just this once. "What time do I need to be there?" "The shift starts at 9, but you should get there by 8:30 to get the uniform and cleaning cart. Ask for Mrs. Chen at the staff entrance. She knows I might send you." Sophia paused. "Maya, thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you." After hanging up, Maya rushed to shower and get ready. As the warm water ran over her, she thought about everything her aunt had done for their family. When Maya's parents were struggling to pay for her college, it was Aunt Sophia who stepped in with her savings. "Education opens doors," she had said firmly. "No niece of mine will miss that opportunity." Maya dressed quickly in simple clothes that would be easy to change out of for the uniform. She made a quick breakfast of toast and coffee, packed a sandwich for lunch, and headed out the door. The bus ride to the Meridian Grand took 45 minutes, and Maya used that time to send emails to her professors explaining her absence and asking for the day's notes. As the bus traveled from her modest neighborhood to the upscale downtown area, the scenery changed dramatically. Worn apartment buildings gave way to gleaming skyscrapers. Small convenience stores were replaced by high-end boutiques. And then, rising 20 stories into the sky, the Meridian Grand came into view. Its glass exterior reflected the morning sun, making it look like it was made of gold. Maya had only seen the hotel from the outside before. Her aunt always talked about the luxury inside: marble floors, crystal chandeliers, rooms that cost more per night than their monthly rent. People like Maya didn't go to places like the Meridian Grand, not as guests anyway. She got off at the bus stop across the street and checked her reflection in a shop window. Her dark hair was tied back in a practical ponytail, and her face looked tired but presentable. Taking a deep breath, she headed to the staff entrance on the side of the building. A small, unassuming door stood in stark contrast to the grand revolving doors at the front. Maya pressed the buzzer and a gruff voice answered through the intercom. "Staff entrance. ID, please. I'm Maya Rodriguez. I'm covering for Sophia Rodriguez today. Mrs. Chen is expecting me." After a pause, the door buzzed open. Maya stepped into a plain hallway. No marble or chandeliers here, and followed the signs to the housekeeping office. Inside, a stern-looking woman with silver-streaked hair was sorting through papers. "Mrs. Chen?" Maya asked hesitantly. The woman looked up, studying Maya through narrow eyes. "You're Sophia's niece? She called to say you'd be covering. Have you done hotel work before?" "No, ma'am," Maya admitted. "But I'm a quick learner, and Aunt Sophia has told me a lot about her job." Mrs. Chen nodded slowly. "Sophia is one of my best. Never late, never complains." Her expression softened slightly. "She must be really sick to miss today. The executive conference has filled every room, and they're demanding types." She handed Maya a uniform, a simple gray dress with the hotel's logo, and a badge. "Change in there," She pointed to a small locker room. When you're ready, I'll show you how to set up the cleaning cart and which rooms you'll be doing. The uniform was slightly big on Maya's smaller frame, but it would do. Mrs. Chen gave her a crash course on the cleaning standards of the Meridian Grand. Every surface had to shine. Every towel had to be folded just so. Beds were made with hospital corners. No detail was too small. These people pay thousands to stay here, Mrs. Chen explained. They expect perfection. She handed Maya a clipboard with room numbers. These are Sophia's regular rooms. Start with the ones that say priority. Those guests have already checked out for meetings but will return this afternoon. The occupied rooms should be cleaned while guests are at the conference between 10 and 2. Maya's head was spinning with information, but she nodded confidently. She couldn't let her aunt down. She pushed the heavy cleaning cart toward the service elevator, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. As the elevator doors closed, Maya caught her reflection in the mirrored wall. In the gray uniform with her hair pulled back, she looked different, invisible almost. She realized that was part of the job. The hotel staff weren't meant to be seen, just to make everything perfect without being noticed. The elevator stopped at the 12th floor, where Maya would start her work. She checked the clipboard. Room 1204 was first, marked priority. Taking a deep breath, she knocked on the door and called out, "Housekeeping." When no one answered, she used the key card to enter. Maya gasped when she stepped inside. The room was bigger than her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a stunning view of the city. A massive king-sized bed dominated one wall, while a sitting area with plush sofas took up another corner. The bathroom was all marble and glass, with a tub big enough for 2 people. But there was no time to admire the luxury. The guest had left the room in disarray. Wet towels on the floor, bed unmade, coffee cups on every surface. Maya set to work, following Mrs. Chen's instructions step by step. She made the bed with precise corners, polished every surface until it gleamed, and arranged the towels in perfect fan shapes. Room after room, Maya worked steadily. By midday, her back ached and her hands were raw from cleaning products, but she kept going. She thought of Aunt Sophia doing this work day after day, year after year, without complaint. If Sophia could do it, so could Maya, at least for one day. As she worked, Maya's mind drifted to her own life. She was the first in her family to go to college, carrying the dreams and sacrifices of her parents and aunt. Between classes, study sessions, and her part-time job at a coffee shop, Maya barely had time to breathe. But it would all be worth it when she graduated and could help her family the way they had helped her. By early afternoon, Maya had reached the executive wing on the top floor. These were the largest, most expensive suites, reserved for the VIPs of the conference. The clipboard indicated room 2001 needed attention while the guest was at a meeting. Maya knocked loudly and called out, "Housekeeping." When no one responded, she entered. This suite was on another level entirely, more like an apartment than a hotel room. The entry opened to a living room with leather furniture and original artwork on the walls. A dining area held a table for 8, and Maya could see a massive bedroom through an open door. The room was neater than the others, but still needed cleaning. Maya moved efficiently, dusting and polishing the living room before moving to the bedroom. She was halfway through changing the sheets when she heard the main door to the suite open. "Hello?" A deep voice called out. "Is someone here?" Maya froze. The guest wasn't supposed to be back until after 2, and it was only 1:30. She quickly straightened up and hurried to the living room. A tall man in an expensive suit stood there looking at her with surprise. He had salt and pepper hair and carried a leather briefcase that probably cost more than Maya's tuition for the semester. "I'm so sorry, sir," Maya said quickly. "I was told you'd be at the conference until 2. I can come back later." Instead of looking annoyed, the man smiled. "No worries at all." The panel discussion ended early. Couldn't stand another minute of Peterson's droning. He looked at Maya curiously. "Are you heading to the sustainability presentation? I don't recall seeing you at the morning sessions." Maya opened her mouth to correct his misunderstanding, but before she could speak, the man continued. "I'm Alexander Reed, by the way. Meridian Ventures." He extended his hand. Maya hesitated, then shook it briefly. "Maya Rodriguez," she replied automatically. "Nice to meet you, Maya," Alexander said, setting down his briefcase. "So which company are you with?" I try to keep track of all the players in the green energy space. Maya's mind raced. This wealthy businessman had somehow mistaken her for a conference guest. In her shock, she accidentally dropped the stack of fresh towels she was holding. As she bent to gather them, she struggled with what to say. "I'm not," she began, but Alexander cut her off. "Here, let me help you with those." He crouched down beside her, picking up a fallen towel. "Thank you, but you don't have to," Maya said, embarrassed. Their hands brushed as they both reached for the last towel, and she quickly pulled back. "It's no trouble," Alexander said, standing up. "So as I was asking, which company are you representing?" "I'm always looking to connect with innovative thinkers in the sustainability sector." Maya stood frozen, the cleaning cart clearly visible behind her. How could he not see she was hotel staff? Then she realized, in his world, people like her were often invisible. He simply wasn't seeing the uniform or the cart. He was seeing what he expected to see, another conference attendee. She opened her mouth to correct him when his phone rang. Alexander glanced at it with annoyance. "Excuse me, I need to take this. It's my investment team." He stepped away toward the window, turning his back to Maya. Maya knew she should use this moment to finish gathering her cleaning supplies and leave. This was her chance to slip away without awkwardness. But as she moved toward the cart, she overheard Alexander's conversation. "Yes, I was at the morning session. No, nothing groundbreaking. The same old approaches to solar efficiency." He sounded disappointed. "We need fresh perspectives, not the same ideas recycled from last year's conference." Maya paused. Sustainable energy was literally what she was studying. Just yesterday, her professor had discussed innovative approaches that weren't being adopted by major companies. Before she could think better of it, she slowed her movements, listening more carefully. "Look, I'm not investing millions in technology that will be obsolete in 5 years," Alexander continued. "These big corporations are just greenwashing their image without making real change." Maya nodded unconsciously. She had just written a paper about this very issue. Alexander ended his call and turned back to find Maya still there. She quickly pretended to be arranging items on her cart. "Sorry about that," he said. "Now where were we?" "Oh, yes, your company?" Maya took a deep breath. "Actually, Mr. Reed?" A hotel manager appeared at the door, which Maya had left ajar. "Is everything to your satisfaction with the room?" Alexander smiled politely. "Everything is perfect, thank you." The manager nodded, then looked at Maya with slight confusion. "Is the cleaning service disturbing you, sir? I can ask them to return later." Maya felt her face grow hot with embarrassment. Now the truth would come out, but Alexander waved dismissively. "Not at all. We were just having an interesting discussion." He turned to Maya. "Actually, I'd love to continue our conversation. The afternoon sessions don't interest me much. Perhaps we could grab coffee in the lobby." The manager looked between them, clearly puzzled, but nodded professionally and left. Maya knew she should tell the truth immediately, but something stopped her. Curiosity, perhaps, or the rare opportunity to be treated as an equal by someone like Alexander Reed. How many chances would she get to speak with a major investor about the very field she was studying? "I should really finish here," she said cautiously. "Of course, don't let me keep you," Alexander replied. Then he added, "But I'm serious about that coffee. The panel discussions this afternoon are just rehashing last year's ideas. I'd much rather hear fresh perspectives." He pulled out a business card and handed it to her. "I'll be in the lobby bar around 4 if you're interested." Maya took the card automatically, staring at the embossed lettering. "Alexander Reed, Managing Partner, Meridian Ventures. A Manhattan address. I'll see if I can make it," she said noncommittally. Alexander smiled. "Great. And bring your proposal materials if you have them. I'm particularly interested in distributed energy solutions for underserved communities." That was literally the topic of her midterm project. Maya felt a strange flutter in her chest, not attraction, but the exciting possibility of having her ideas heard by someone who could actually implement them. "I should let you get back to work," Alexander said, picking up his briefcase. "I need to make some calls anyway. I'll look for you at 4. With that, he left the suite, leaving Maya standing amid her cleaning supplies, clutching his business card and wondering what had just happened. For the next 2 hours, Maya worked on autopilot, cleaning the remaining rooms while her mind spun with possibilities and doubts. Should she go meet him? Should she have corrected his misunderstanding immediately? Was she being dishonest by allowing him to think she was someone she wasn't? By the time she returned her cart to the housekeeping department, it was nearly 3:30. Mrs. Chen checked her work list and nodded with approval. "You did good work today," she said. "Sophia trained you well. Do you want to fill in tomorrow too?" She called to say she's still very sick. Maya hesitated. "Can I let you know later?" "I might have an appointment." Mrs. Chen raised an eyebrow but nodded. "Call by 7 tonight if you can work tomorrow." In the staff locker room, Maya changed back into her street clothes and sat on a bench, staring at Alexander's business card. She should go home. She had studying to do, and this whole situation felt like it could spiral out of control. But when would she ever get another chance like this? To have someone like Alexander Reed actually listen to her ideas about sustainable energy, ideas that might actually help communities like the one she grew up in? She made a decision. She wouldn't lie, but she would go to the lobby bar. She would tell him the truth immediately and apologize for the confusion. He would probably laugh it off, and that would be the end of it. Maya checked her appearance in the small mirror inside her locker. Her work clothes, simple jeans and a blue button-down shirt, weren't fancy, but they were neat and professional looking. She redid her ponytail and wished she had brought makeup with her. The lobby of the Meridian Grand was even more impressive than the guest rooms, soaring ceilings with crystal chandeliers, marble floors gleaming like mirrors, plush seating areas where well-dressed people conducted business in hushed tones. Maya felt painfully out of place as she walked through it, aware of her worn sneakers squeaking slightly on the polished floor. The lobby bar was off to one side, an elegant space with dark wood, low lighting, and comfortable leather chairs. Maya hesitated at the entrance, scanning the room. There he was, sitting at a small table near the window, checking his watch. Taking a deep breath, she approached. "Mr. Reed." Alexander looked up and smiled. "Maya, I wasn't sure you'd come." He gestured to the chair across from him. "Please join me. And call me Alexander." Maya sat down stiffly, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Thank you, but I need to tell you something first." A waiter approached before she could continue. "May I get you something to drink, miss?" Maya hesitated. "Just water, please." "Bring us a bottle of the sparkling water," Alexander told the waiter. "And I'll have my usual old-fashioned." He turned back to Maya. "Now what did you want to tell me?" "The thing is," Maya began, but Alexander's phone rang again. "I'm so sorry," he said, glancing at it. "It's my daughter. Do you mind if I take this? It'll just be a minute." "Of course," Maya said, relieved for the delay. While Alexander spoke quietly to his daughter about her homework, Maya looked around the bar. Several other conference attendees were scattered at nearby tables, all in expensive suits, all exuding confidence and privilege. She didn't belong here, and yet, part of her wanted to see how it felt just for a little while. Alexander returned his phone to his pocket. "Sorry about that. My daughter has a science project due tomorrow, and apparently it's a crisis." He smiled fondly. "She's 12 and thinks everything is the end of the world." The waiter returned with their drinks. Alexander raised his glass slightly. "To new perspectives." Maya took a small sip of her water and set it down firmly. "Mr. Reed, Alexander, I need to be honest with you." "Please do," he said, looking genuinely interested. "I'm not a conference attendee," she said in a rush. "I'm not with any company. I was cleaning your room because I was covering my aunt's shift. She's a housekeeper here and got sick, so I was filling in for her today. You misunderstood, and I should have corrected you immediately." She waited for his reaction. Embarrassment, anger, maybe even accusations of deception. But Alexander just looked at her thoughtfully. "I see," he said after a moment. "Well, that explains the cleaning cart." He took a sip of his drink. "I feel rather foolish for not noticing that obvious detail." "I'm sorry," Maya said, standing up. "I should go. I didn't mean to waste your time." "Wait," Alexander said. "Please sit. You haven't wasted my time at all." Confused, Maya slowly sat back down. "So if you're not with a renewable energy company, why did you come meet me?" he asked. Maya looked down at her hands. Because sustainable energy is actually what I'm studying. I'm a student at City University, majoring in environmental science with a focus on renewable energy systems." Alexander's eyebrows rose. "Really? That's quite a coincidence." "It's why I was listening to your phone conversation," Maya admitted. "When you mentioned needing fresh perspectives on solar efficiency. Well, we just covered some cutting-edge approaches in my advanced energy systems class yesterday. Is that so?" "Hello." Alexander leaned forward, looking genuinely curious. Such as? Maya hesitated, then decided she had nothing to lose. Well, most companies are still focusing on improving traditional silicon panels, but there's promising research on organic photovoltaics that could dramatically reduce production costs and environmental impact. They're not as efficient yet, but for certain applications, especially in developing regions, the trade-off could be worth it. Alexander was watching her intently. Go on. The waiter approached to ask if they wanted another round, but Alexander waved him away, his attention fixed on Maya. The real game changer, Maya continued, warming to her subject, isn't just better solar panels, it's integrated systems. My professor calls it the ecosystem approach. Instead of trying to replace entire power grids, we create local microgrids that combine multiple renewable sources with smart storage solutions. And how would that work in practice? Alexander asked. Take my neighborhood, for example, Maya said, forgetting her nervousness. Most families can't afford expensive solar installations, but a community-based approach could work. Solar on school rooftops, small wind turbines in the park, waste-to-energy systems at the community center. Connected with smart technology and shared battery storage. For nearly an hour they talked. Maya shared ideas from her classes, research she'd been reading, and observations from her own community. Alexander asked sharp, insightful questions that challenged her to think more deeply. He didn't talk down to her or dismiss her ideas. He listened, really listened, as if what she had to say mattered. As their conversation continued, other conference attendees occasionally stopped by to greet Alexander. Each time, he introduced Maya simply as a brilliant young mind in renewable energy, neither lying about her position nor revealing that she was hotel staff. The sky outside the windows darkened as evening approached. Maya suddenly realized how long they had been talking. I should go, she said, checking the time. I have a bus to catch. Of course, Alexander said. This has been the most interesting conversation I've had at this entire conference. He paused. Maya, I don't typically do this, but I'd like to invite you to join my table at the gala dinner tonight. Maya's eyes widened. The gala dinner? It's the main event of the conference. All the key players will be there. It would be a valuable networking opportunity for you, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on some of the other projects being discussed. Maya stared at him in disbelief. I can't go to a gala. I don't have anything to wear, and I'm not registered for the conference. Alexander waved dismissively. I can add a guest to my table, no registration needed. As for something to wear, he thought for a moment. The hotel has some boutiques on the mezzanine level. Consider it an investment in promising talent. I couldn't accept that, Maya said firmly. Alexander nodded, respecting her boundary. I understand. Perhaps there's another solution. The dinner isn't for 3 hours. Is there time for you to go home and change? Maya thought about her wardrobe at home. She had one decent dress she wore for special occasions. Nothing fancy, but presentable. Could she really do this? Go to a gala dinner with business executives and investors? I might have something I could wear, she said slowly. Excellent, Alexander said. He wrote something on the back of another business card. Show this to the doorman at the grand ballroom at 8 o'clock. I'll make sure your name is on the list. As Maya stood to leave, a woman approached their table. She was elegantly dressed in a designer suit, her auburn hair pulled back in a sleek bun. Alexander, there you are, she said. The pre-dinner meeting starts in 20 minutes. She glanced curiously at Maya. Diane, Alexander said, standing. This is Maya Rodriguez, a bright young mind in sustainable energy. Maya, this is Diane Foster, my chief investment officer. Nice to meet you, Maya said, suddenly self-conscious about her simple clothes. Diane gave her a professional smile. Likewise. Are you with one of the startups presenting tomorrow? Before Maya could answer, Alexander cut in. Maya offers a unique perspective outside the usual corporate framework. I've invited her to join our table tonight. Diane raised an eyebrow but nodded. I look forward to hearing more then. Alexander, we should go. The others are waiting. Alexander turned to Maya. 8 o'clock, don't forget. As Maya walked away, she heard Diane ask, Another one of your mentoring projects? This one's different, Alexander replied. Wait until you hear her ideas on community-based microgrids. Maya left the hotel in a daze, barely noticing her surroundings as she walked to the bus stop. What had she gotten herself into? Was she really going to attend a gala dinner with business executives and investors? People who made decisions about millions of dollars? People whose world was so different from hers? She reached for her phone to call her best friend Lynn for advice, then stopped. How could she explain this bizarre situation? Hi, Lynn. I was mistaken for a conference guest while cleaning hotel rooms, and now I'm having dinner with a wealthy investor. As the bus rattled toward her neighborhood, Maya stared out the window, Alexander's business card still clutched in her hand. Tonight could be an amazing opportunity, or a complete disaster. Either way, it would definitely be a night she'd never forget. Maya stood in front of her tiny closet, pushing hangers back and forth. The bus ride home had given her time to think, and doubt had crept in with each passing mile. What was she doing? She didn't belong in that world of wealth and power. The sensible thing would be to text Alexander, thank him for the conversation, and politely decline his dinner invitation. But then she thought about the way he had listened to her ideas. Really listened, with genuine interest. And she thought about the networking opportunities at the gala. People who could actually implement the kinds of changes she dreamed about were going to be there. Her fingers found the navy blue dress she'd worn to her cousin's wedding last year. It was simple but elegant, a knee-length sheath with short sleeves and a modest neckline. Nothing fancy, but it was the best she had. Maya pulled it out and laid it on her bed, then went to shower. As the hot water washed away the day's work, she tried to calm her racing thoughts. What would she talk about with these people? What if they asked about her company? What if someone from the hotel recognized her? She stepped out of the shower and wrapped herself in a towel. Her phone was blinking with a message. It was from Aunt Sophia. How did it go today? Mrs. Chen called to check on me and said you did a great job. Thank you so much, Clarita. I owe you big time. Are you working tomorrow too? Maya hesitated before replying. Everything went fine. Not sure about tomorrow yet. We'll let you know. Hope you feel better soon. She couldn't bring herself to mention the gala. It felt like she was living in two different worlds today and she didn't know how to bridge them. After drying her hair and applying a little makeup, Maya slipped on the navy dress. It still fit well. She found her only pair of heels, simple black pumps, and her small clutch purse. The overall effect wasn't glamorous, but it was respectable. She wouldn't look like she belonged at a fancy gala, but at least she wouldn't look completely out of place. As she was about to leave, Maya paused. What was she going to say if people asked about her background? She couldn't lie, she wouldn't lie, but she needed a plan. After thinking for a moment, she decided on the truth, just not all of it at once. She was a university student studying environmental science. That was true. She was interested in sustainable energy solutions for underserved communities. Also true. She didn't have to volunteer that she'd been cleaning hotel rooms that morning unless directly asked. The bus ride back downtown felt surreal. Other passengers were heading home after work, looking tired and ordinary, while Maya sat among them in her dress and makeup, headed to a gala dinner with millionaires. When she arrived at the Meridian Grand, Maya almost lost her nerve. The hotel looked even more intimidating in the evening, with spotlights illuminating its grand entrance and luxury cars pulling up to the valet stand. She took a deep breath and walked up the main steps, trying to project a confidence she didn't feel. The doorman gave her a polite nod as she entered the lobby. Maya followed signs to the grand ballroom, her heart pounding. Outside its massive doors, a woman with a tablet checked names against a guest list. Name, please? The woman asked when Maya approached. Maya Rodriguez. I'm a guest of Alexander Reed. The woman scanned her tablet, then nodded. Yes, Mr. Reed added you to his table. Please go right in. The grand ballroom took Maya's breath away. Crystal chandeliers hung from a ceiling painted with gold leaf. Dozens of round tables covered in white linen filled the space, each set with fine china and crystal glassware. A small orchestra played softly on a stage at one end of the room. Maya scanned the crowd, feeling increasingly out of place among the designer gowns and custom suits. Everyone seemed to know each other, laughing and chatting with easy familiarity. Maya. She turned to see Alexander waving to her from a table near the center of the room. Relief washed over her as she made her way toward him. Alexander stood as she approached. He was dressed in a tuxedo that fit him perfectly, making him look even more distinguished than he had earlier. I'm glad you could make it, he said warmly. Let me introduce you to everyone. The table seated 8 people. Beside Alexander and Diane, whom Maya had met briefly earlier, There were two couples who were apparently longtime investors in Alexander's fund, and a younger man named Thomas who was introduced as Alexander's protege. "Everyone," Alexander said. "This is Maya Rodriguez, a brilliant young mind in sustainable energy. She's going to share some fresh perspectives with us tonight." Maya smiled nervously as everyone greeted her. She took the empty seat between Alexander and Thomas. As servers poured wine and water, small talk flowed around the table. The two couples discussed recent vacations to exotic locations, while Diane and Alexander talked about market trends. Thomas leaned toward Maya. "So how do you know Alexander?" he asked quietly. "We just met today, actually," Maya replied honestly. "We had an interesting conversation about sustainable energy approaches." Thomas looked surprised. He must have been impressed. Alexander doesn't usually invite new acquaintances to these events. Before Maya could respond, the first course arrived. A delicate seafood appetizer arranged like a work of art on the plate. Maya discreetly watched others to see which fork to use. As the meal progressed, the conversation shifted to business. One of the investors asked about promising new technologies his fund was considering. "Green hydrogen has potential," the investor said, "but the infrastructure challenges are significant. What do you think, Maya?" Alexander asked, bringing her into the conversation. "Is hydrogen the future?" All eyes turned to her. Maya took a small sip of water, gathering her thoughts. "Hydrogen has its place," she said carefully, "especially for industrial applications and possibly transportation. But for community-level solutions, I think distributed solar and smart microgrids offer more immediate benefits with fewer technical hurdles." "Interesting," said one of the women at the table. "Why do you favor that approach?" Encouraged by their genuine interest, Maya explained her thoughts on community-based energy systems. She talked about the research she'd been studying, but also drew on personal experience. "In my neighborhood, many families are paying disproportionate amounts of their income for electricity," she explained. "Traditional utilities haven't invested in upgrading infrastructure in these areas. Community-owned microgrids could provide more reliable power at lower costs while creating local jobs." As Maya spoke, she forgot her nervousness. This was her passion after all. The problems were real, and the solutions were possible with the right investment and vision. "That's all well and good," said one of the male investors. "But what's the return on investment? These communities don't have money to pay for expensive systems." Maya met his gaze steadily. "That's where innovative financing comes in. Community ownership models, pay-as-you-save programs, and public-private partnerships can make these projects financially viable while serving communities that have been overlooked." Diane, who had been listening quietly, leaned forward. "You've clearly thought about this from multiple angles. Are you working with a particular organization or startup?" This was the moment of truth. Maya took a deep breath. "Actually, I'm a third-year university student," she said. "Environmental science major with a focus on renewable energy systems. These ideas come from my studies and research as well as my own community experiences." Surprise flickered across several faces at the table. "A student?" Thomas repeated, looking confused. "I thought you were presenting at the conference." Maya glanced at Alexander, unsure how to respond. He smoothly stepped in. "Maya offers exactly the kind of fresh thinking this industry needs," he said. "Sometimes the most valuable insights come from outside the established business circles." The conversation shifted again as servers cleared plates and brought the main course. Maya felt a mix of relief and lingering anxiety. She hadn't lied, but she still hadn't told the complete truth about how she'd met Alexander. As dinner continued, Maya found herself drawn into various conversations. The younger wife of one investor turned out to have studied environmental science herself before going into finance. They had an animated discussion about the latest research in the field. Thomas, initially skeptical, became more friendly as Maya showed her knowledge on technical questions. By dessert, they were debating the merits of different battery storage technologies, with others at the table listening with interest. Throughout the evening, Alexander occasionally caught Maya's eye and gave her an encouraging nod. She was holding her own in this world, at least for tonight. After dinner, attendees mingled around the ballroom. A small stage had been set up, and the conference organizer made a brief speech welcoming everyone and outlining the next day's events. Tomorrow's focus will be on investment opportunities in emerging markets. the organizer said. We're particularly excited about the panel on rural electrification projects. Maya felt a tap on her shoulder and turned to find Diane standing beside her. You've made quite an impression, Diane said, her voice neutral. Alexander seems quite taken with your ideas. He's been very kind, Maya replied cautiously. Diane studied her for a moment. Alexander has a habit of finding unusual talent. Sometimes it works out brilliantly. Other times, she left the sentence hanging. Just be clear about your intentions. Before Maya could respond, Diane was called away by another attendee. Don't mind Diane, Alexander said, appearing at Maya's side. She's protective of our investors' money. It's what makes her excellent at her job. Maya nodded, suddenly feeling out of place again. I should probably go soon. It's getting late and I have an early class tomorrow. Of course, Alexander said, but before you leave, there's someone I'd like you to meet. He led her across the room to a woman in her 50s with short gray hair and an air of quiet authority. Dr. Helena Chen, Alexander said. May I introduce Maya Rodriguez? Maya, Dr. Chen heads the Renewable Energy Research Institute at Pacific University, one of the leading researchers in community-based energy systems. Maya's eyes widened. She had read several of Dr. Chen's papers for her classes. It's an honor to meet you, Maya said sincerely. Your work on participatory design for energy systems has been inspirational. Dr. Chen looked pleased. You're familiar with my research? Yes, I cited your study on community ownership models in my last paper. The way you integrated social equity metrics into technical performance evaluation was brilliant. Alexander smiled. I thought you two might find some common ground. Helena, Maya is studying environmental science with a focus on sustainable energy. She has some fascinating ideas about microgrids for underserved communities. For the next 15 minutes, Maya found herself engaged in the most stimulating academic conversation she'd had outside of university. Dr. Chen asked thoughtful questions about Maya's studies and offered insights from her current research. You know, Dr. Chen said finally, we have a summer research program for promising students. The application deadline is next month. You should consider applying. She handed Maya a business card. Email me if you're interested. I'd be happy to tell you more about it. Maya stared at the card in disbelief. Thank you. I definitely will. As Dr. Chen moved away to speak with other guests, Maya turned to Alexander. Thank you for that introduction. Dr. Chen is a hero in my field. I thought you might connect, he said with a smile. Helena and I have worked together on several projects. She has a good eye for talent. The evening was winding down and Maya knew she should leave. She had already stayed far longer than she'd planned. I really should go now, she said. I can't thank you enough for including me tonight. It's been incredible. Alexander nodded. Let me walk you out. As they made their way through the ballroom, several people stopped Alexander to chat. Each time he politely introduced Maya and included her in the conversation. By the time they reached the lobby, Maya had collected 3 more business cards from people interested in her ideas. Do you need a car to take you home? Alexander asked as they approached the main entrance. No, thank you, Maya said quickly. I'll take the bus. It's not far. Alexander looked concerned. It's quite late. At least let me call you a taxi. Maya hesitated, then nodded. Her last bus would have left by now, and a late-night walk from the downtown stop to her apartment wasn't appealing. While they waited for the taxi, an uncomfortable silence fell between them. Maya knew this was her moment to come completely clean. Mr. Reed, Alexander, I need to tell you something, she began. About how we actually met today. Alexander raised an eyebrow. You mean when I walked in on you cleaning my hotel room? Maya stared at him in shock. You knew? All along? He smiled slightly. Not at first, no. But I figured it out during our coffee conversation. You mentioned covering your aunt's shift as a cleaner when you explained who you were. But you still invited me to the gala, Maya said, confused. Why? Because your ideas were compelling, he said simply. And because when you spoke about sustainable energy, your eyes lit up with genuine passion and intelligence. That's rare, even at a conference full of so-called experts. Maya didn't know what to say. She had been worrying about this moment all evening, and now it seemed there was nothing to worry about. Still, she said finally, I should have been clear from the beginning. It felt dishonest. You were honest about the things that matter, Alexander replied. Your knowledge, your ideas, your perspective, those were all genuine. The circumstances of our meeting are just an amusing anecdote. A taxi pulled up to the curb. Alexander opened the door for Maya. "Thank you again," she said. "For everything. It was my pleasure," he said. "And Maya, whatever you decide to do after university, you have a remarkable mind. Don't let anyone convince you that your voice doesn't belong in these conversations." As the taxi pulled away from the glittering hotel, Maya leaned back against the seat, exhausted but exhilarated. In her purse were business cards from industry leaders, academics, and investors, connections she could never have made otherwise. And in her mind were the conversations, the ideas exchanged, and the unexpected validation of her thoughts and aspirations. Tomorrow she would go back to her normal life, classes, her part-time job studying for midterms, but tonight had shown her a glimpse of what might be possible. Her ideas had been heard and taken seriously by people with the power to make them reality. As the taxi turned onto her street, Maya thought about her Aunt Sophia, still sick in bed. "Thank you for asking me to cover your shift," she whispered to herself with a smile. Sometimes the most unexpected opportunities came from the most ordinary circumstances. The taxi stopped in front of her apartment building. Maya paid the driver and stepped out, still in her navy dress and heels but feeling like a different person than when she'd put them on just hours ago. She looked up at the night sky, barely visible through the city lights. Today had been surreal. A cleaning job that turned into a conference conversation that led to a gala dinner with industry leaders. It was the kind of thing that only happened in movies, not to ordinary people like her. Except it had happened, and as Maya climbed the stairs to her apartment, she wondered what doors might open from this strange, wonderful day. The morning after the gala, Maya woke to the insistent buzzing of her alarm. For a moment she lay confused, half expecting to find herself in one of the luxurious beds at the Meridian Grand. Then reality settled in. She was back in her small apartment, with sunlight filtering through the thin curtains and the familiar sounds of her neighbors getting ready for the day. Had last night really happened? The business cards scattered on her nightstand confirmed it wasn't a dream. Dr. Helena Chen's card sat on top, promising an opportunity that Maya had never imagined possible. She reached for her phone and found 3 missed calls from her best friend Lynn and a text message. "Call me." "What happened with the hotel thing? Why aren't you answering?" Maya smiled. She had texted Lynn a brief explanation last night after returning home, and her friend had responded with a string of shocked emojis and demands for details. It was too late to call then, but now, before she could dial, her phone rang. It was Aunt Sophia. "Good morning, querida," her aunt said, her voice still raspy but stronger than yesterday. "Did you decide about working today? Mrs. Chen needs to know soon." Maya had completely forgotten about the hotel job. After the events of last night, returning to clean rooms felt like stepping back into someone else's life. But she had promised to help her aunt. "How are you feeling?" Maya asked. Sophia coughed. "A little better, but the doctor says I should rest for at least another day. I hate to ask again." "It's okay," Maya said quickly. "I can cover today too." She glanced at the time. If she hurried, she could make it to the hotel by the start of the shift at 9 a.m. "You're an angel," Sophia said gratefully. "I'll make your favorite arroz con pollo when I'm back on my feet." After hanging up, Maya called Lynn while rushing to get ready. "Finally," Lynn exclaimed when she answered. "I need every detail of this crazy story. You were cleaning hotel rooms and ended up at a fancy business dinner? With who? How?" "It's a long story," Maya said, putting her phone on speaker while she brushed her teeth. "I'm actually heading back to the hotel now to cover another shift for my aunt." "You're going back? After being mistaken for a guest? Isn't that awkward?" Maya paused, toothbrush in hand. She hadn't thought about that. Would she run into Alexander again? Or any of the other people she'd met last night? The hotel was huge with hundreds of rooms. The chances were slim, right? "It'll be fine," she said, trying to convince herself. "I'll just do the job and keep a low profile. Besides, I need the money." After promising Lynn a full account later, Maya finished getting ready and caught the bus downtown. This time the trip felt different. She noticed details about the Meridian Grand that had escaped her yesterday. The way the morning light reflected off its glass facade, the carefully maintained flower beds around the entrance, the subtle but unmistakable signs of luxury and exclusivity. At the staff entrance, Mrs. Chen was waiting with the day's room assignments. "Good, you're here," she said briskly. Same as yesterday. Start with the priority rooms. The conference continues until tomorrow, so all guests will be out in meetings from 9 to 3. Maya nodded, taking the list. As she loaded up her cleaning cart, she scanned the room numbers, feeling a mix of relief and disappointment when she didn't see Suite 2001, Alexander's room, on her list. The morning passed in a blur of fresh linens, vacuum cleaners, and bathroom disinfectant. Maya worked efficiently, her mind drifting between her classes, last night's conversations, and the summer research program Dr. Chen had mentioned. Should she apply? Would someone like her even have a chance? Around noon, Maya was finishing a room on the 15th floor when her phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. Maya, Alexander Reed here. I hope you don't mind that I got your number from the guest services desk. I'm hosting a small lunch meeting today with Dr. Chen and a few colleagues to discuss community energy initiatives. We'd value your input if you're available. Grayson Room, 1 p.m. Maya stared at the message in disbelief. He was inviting her to a business lunch? How did he know she was at the hotel today? She texted back hesitantly. Thank you for the invitation. I'm actually working at the hotel again today, covering for my aunt. I don't think I can attend a lunch meeting. His response came quickly. I assumed as much when the front desk mentioned you were on staff today. The invitation stands. I've already cleared it with hotel management if you're concerned about your shift. Maya's fingers hovered over her phone. This was crossing a line between two worlds that shouldn't mix. And yet, the opportunity to continue the conversations from last night, to possibly contribute to real projects. I'm in a cleaning uniform, she texted back. A last practical objection. We're more interested in your mind than your clothes, came the reply. But there's a change of clothes in my suite if that would make you more comfortable. The concierge has a key for you. 30 minutes later, Maya stood in the bathroom of Alexander's suite, hardly recognizing herself in the mirror. The change of clothes turned out to be a simple but elegant pantsuit that fit her surprisingly well, though the sleeves needed rolling up. A note attached had explained that it belonged to Alexander's daughter, who occasionally stayed at the hotel when visiting from college. Maya had pinned her name tag to the jacket, a small reminder of who she really was amidst all this strangeness. She checked her watch, 12:55 p.m. Taking a deep breath, she left the suite and headed for the Grayson Room. The conference room was smaller and less formal than the grand ballroom, set up with a round table that could seat about 12 people. When Maya entered, 5 people were already there, including Alexander and Dr. Chen. Ah, Maya, Alexander said, standing to greet her. Thank you for joining us. Everyone, this is Maya Rodriguez, the student I mentioned. Maya recognized another face from last night. Thomas, Alexander's protege. The other 2 attendees were introduced as Professor James Wong from the engineering department at Pacific University, and Leila Patel, CEO of Green Grid Solutions, a company specializing in renewable energy infrastructure. Please sit down, Dr. Chen said warmly. We were just discussing the challenges of implementing microgrids in established urban areas. As Maya took a seat, a server entered with trays of sandwiches and salads. The informal lunch setting helped ease Maya's nervousness. The conversation flowed naturally, with each person contributing their expertise. The technical aspects are solvable, Professor Wong was saying. The real challenge is the regulatory framework. Most utility regulations weren't designed with distributed generation in mind. And financing remains a significant hurdle, added Leila. Traditional investors want quick returns, but these projects often have longer payback periods with different kinds of value. Alexander turned to Maya. This is where your perspective could be valuable. You mentioned innovative financing models last night. Could you elaborate? Maya hesitated, acutely aware of her position as the only non-professional at the table. But the encouraging nods from around the table gave her confidence. Well, she began, from what I've studied and observed in my own community, there's often a disconnect between how these projects are financed and how they're valued by residents. Traditional models look at kilowatt hours and grid stability, which are important, but they miss the social and economic benefits. She warmed to her topic, explaining her ideas about combining cooperative ownership models with public-private partnerships, allowing community members to build equity through their energy systems while accessing capital from impact investors. What's interesting, she continued, is that when community members have ownership stakes, maintenance costs and system longevity improve dramatically. That creates value that traditional investment models don't capture. Professor Wong nodded thoughtfully. There's research supporting that. Community-owned systems in Denmark show significantly better performance metrics over time. The conversation continued through lunch, exploring various aspects of community energy systems. Maya contributed where she could, but also listened carefully, absorbing insights from people with decades of experience in the field. As coffee was served, Alexander cleared his throat. I invited you all here today because I see an opportunity, he said. Meridian Ventures is considering establishing a new fund focused specifically on community-based clean energy projects. We're looking at an initial investment of $50 million with the potential to scale up, depending on performance. Maya nearly choked on her coffee. $50 million? That was more money than she could comprehend. The traditional venture model doesn't work well for these projects, Alexander continued. We need a new approach that balances financial returns with social impact and community benefit. I'd like to form a small advisory group to help develop the framework for this fund. And I hope you'll all consider participating, he turned to Maya. Including you, Maya. Your perspective as both a student of the technical aspects and a member of exactly the kind of community we hope to serve would be invaluable. Maya stared at him in shock. Me, but I'm just a student. I don't have the expertise that everyone else here has. Sometimes fresh eyes see what experts miss, Dr. Chen said gently, and you bring a perspective that's often absent from these discussions. Layla nodded in agreement. I started Green Grid with far less knowledge than you have now. What matters is understanding the problems that need solving and having the passion to solve them. Thomas, who had been quiet for much of the lunch, leaned forward. If I may, Alexander, I think Maya could contribute significantly, especially if this were structured as part of a formal internship or research position. That would provide both academic credit and professional development. Alexander's eyes lit up. Excellent suggestion, Thomas. Dr. Chen, would that be possible through your department? Certainly, Dr. Chen replied. We could design an independent study credit that aligns with this project. It would be an exceptional opportunity for any student. Maya felt overwhelmed. Yesterday, she had been worried about her midterm project and covering her aunt's shift. Today, she was being offered a position advising on a $50 million investment fund and a potential research opportunity with one of the leading academics in her field. I don't know what to say, she managed finally. Say yes, Thomas suggested with a smile. Opportunities like this don't come along often. Maya looked around the table at these accomplished professionals who, for some reason, valued her input. Yes, she said softly, then with more confidence. Yes, I'd be honored to be involved. Alexander nodded, pleased. Excellent. We'll set up a proper meeting next week to begin planning. In the meantime, I'll have my team draw up the necessary paperwork. As the meeting concluded, the participants exchanged contact information and briefly discussed next steps. Maya found herself having a side conversation with Dr. Chen about the summer research program. Given these new developments, Dr. Chen said, we should talk about accelerating your application. This project could form the core of your research work. Meanwhile, Layla approached Maya with a business card. If you're interested in seeing how these systems work in practice, come visit our demonstration site. We have a community microgrid project that's been operational for 2 years now. By the time Maya left the Grayson room, her head was spinning with possibilities. She checked her watch and realized with a start that she had been away from her cleaning duties for almost 2 hours. Don't worry about your shift, Alexander said, reading her expression. As I mentioned, I spoke with hotel management. Your aunt will still be paid for a full day's work, and you're excused for the remainder of the day. That's very kind. But I should at least return the cleaning cart and check out properly, Maya insisted. And I need to change back into my uniform to return this suit. Alexander nodded. Of course, Thomas will show you back to my suite. I have another meeting to attend, but my assistant will be in touch about next steps. He extended his hand. Thank you for joining us today, Maya. I think this is the beginning of something important. As Maya shook his hand, she felt a strange sense of standing at a crossroads. Behind her was the life she had always known, working multiple jobs to make ends meet, studying hard for a degree that might someday lead to a better life. Ahead was something new and uncertain, filled with opportunities she had never imagined possible. Thomas walked with Maya back toward Alexander's suite. "You made quite an impression," he said. "Alexander doesn't usually get this excited about new projects." "It all feels unreal," Maya admitted. "Yesterday I was cleaning hotel rooms and today I'm advising on a multi-million-dollar investment fund." Thomas laughed. "Life takes strange turns sometimes. My own story isn't so different. I was working as a bartender when I met Alexander 5 years ago. Now I help manage a portfolio worth billions." They reached the suite and Thomas waited in the living room, while Maya changed back into her uniform in the bathroom. When she emerged, clutching the borrowed pantsuit, she felt oddly relieved to be back in the simple gray dress with the hotel logo. At least in this uniform, she knew exactly who she was and what was expected of her. "I'll take care of the suit," Thomas said, taking it from her. "Do you need help finding your way back to housekeeping?" Maya shook her head. "No, I know the way." "Thank you." As she walked through the service corridors of the hotel, Maya tried to process everything that had happened. Part of her was excited beyond words at the opportunities that had suddenly appeared. Another part was terrified. What if she couldn't live up to their expectations? What if she was in over her head? In the housekeeping department, Mrs. Chen looked up in surprise when Maya appeared. "There you are!" "I got a call from management saying you were in a meeting with some VIP guests." "What's going on?" Maya struggled to find a simple explanation. "It's complicated. The guest I'm assisting is interested in my studies. We talked about potential work opportunities." Mrs. Chen raised an eyebrow but didn't press further. "Well, your card is back and your rooms are being covered. You can finish your shift or clock out now. It's been approved either way." Maya thought about it. She could use the extra hours of pay, but her mind was too full to focus on cleaning tasks right now. "I think I'll clock out if that's okay," she said. "But I can come back tomorrow if my aunt is still sick." Mrs. Chen nodded. "Call in the morning to let us know, and Maya, whatever opportunity this guest is offering you, I hope it's a good one." After changing back into her street clothes and clocking out, Maya left through the staff entrance for what might be the last time. The contrast between entering as staff this morning and leaving with business cards from CEOs and professors in her pocket was not lost on her. As she walked to the bus stop, Maya pulled out her phone to call Lynn. She needed to tell someone about the incredible turn her life had taken in just 24 hours. But before she could dial, she paused, looking back at the gleaming tower of the Meridian Grand. Was this really happening, or would it all disappear when the clock struck midnight, like some modern Cinderella story? Maya shook her head, dismissing the thought. This wasn't a fairy tale with a magical solution to all her problems. Whatever opportunities had opened up would require hard work, commitment, and courage to step into unfamiliar territory. There would be challenges ahead, possibly failures and disappointments, but for now, as she boarded the bus home, Maya allowed herself to feel something that had been in short supply lately. Hope. Hope that her ideas might actually make a difference. Hope that her hard work in school might lead somewhere meaningful. Hope that the future could be different not just for her, but for her family and community. And it had all started because she'd covered her aunt's shift as a hotel cleaner. Life really did take strange and unexpected turns. Sometimes, 6 months had passed since the fateful day Maya had covered her aunt's cleaning shift at the Meridian Grand Hotel. The cherry trees outside her new office window were in full bloom, their pink petals occasionally drifting past the glass like gentle reminders of how much had changed. Maya leaned back in her chair, taking a rare moment to reflect. The small office wasn't luxurious by Meridian Ventures standards, but to her it represented a world of possibility that she was still getting used to. The walls were covered with maps and diagrams of community energy projects, and her desk was piled with research papers and project proposals. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called. Thomas poked his head in, waving a folder. "The final numbers for the West Side project just came in. Thought you'd want to see them right away." Maya's heart jumped. The West Side Community Energy Project was the first initiative launched under Alexander's new fund, and it was happening right in her own neighborhood. After months of community meetings, regulatory hurdles, and technical planning, the system had gone live last week. "How's it looking?" she asked, reaching for the folder. Thomas grinned. "See for yourself. But spoiler alert, better than Project A." Maya flipped through the pages, her eyes widening at the figures. The microgrid system, A combination of rooftop solar, small wind turbines, and a community battery storage facility was already showing impressive results. Energy costs for participating households had dropped by nearly 30%, and the system had maintained stability even during last week's brief power outage in surrounding areas. "This is amazing," she breathed. "The efficiency metrics are even better than we modeled." "That's what happens when the community is actually invested in making it work," Thomas pointed out. "Your cooperative ownership model is proving its worth." Maya nodded, still processing the data. The ownership structure had been her biggest contribution to the project. A hybrid model where community members built equity through their energy usage and system maintenance, while outside investors provided initial capital in exchange for steady, if modest, returns. It had been a hard sell to traditional investors, but Alexander had backed her all the way. "Alexander wants to review these numbers at the 2 p.m. meeting," Thomas said. "And Dr. Chen called earlier. She wants to talk about incorporating these results into your research paper." The research paper. Maya still couldn't believe she was co-authoring an academic paper with Dr. Helena Chen, one of the leading figures in renewable energy research. The independent study arrangement had evolved into a formal research position, with Maya splitting her time between her studies, the foundation, and fieldwork. "I'll call her back after lunch," Maya said, making a note on her calendar. "I'm meeting my aunt at 12:30, Thomas nodded. "How is she doing?" "Much better," Maya smiled. "The new position at the community center suits her perfectly. She's organizing all the education programs for the energy project." After Thomas left, Maya gathered her things for lunch. As she walked through the foundation's offices, a modest space in a converted warehouse, deliberately located in the community it served rather than in a downtown high-rise, she exchanged greetings with colleagues. Some were energy experts with advanced degrees. Others were community organizers with decades of experience, and a few were recent hires from the neighborhood, trained through the foundation's workforce development program. This was what Maya loved most about her new role, the way it bridged different worlds, bringing together technical expertise, financial resources, and community knowledge to create solutions that actually worked for people's everyday lives. Outside, spring sunshine warmed the air as Maya walked the 6 blocks to her aunt's favorite cafe. The neighborhood looked the same as always. The same small businesses, the same apartment buildings, the same families going about their lives. But subtle changes were appearing. Solar panels on the community center roof, a new electric vehicle charging station at the corner market, and most importantly, a new sense of possibility. Maya spotted her aunt at an outdoor table, waving enthusiastically. Sofia Rodriguez looked younger somehow, her face more relaxed than Maya had seen in years. "There's my brilliant niece," Sofia called out as Maya approached, always rushing from one important meeting to another. Maya laughed as they embraced. "Says the woman who's now running 3 different programs at the center. I hear the energy literacy classes are standing room only. People want to understand what's happening in their own community," Sofia said, sitting back down. "Especially when it affects their bills and their future." They ordered lunch, the same sandwiches they'd always enjoyed together, but the conversation was far from ordinary. Sofia updated Maya on the neighborhood response to the energy project, while Maya shared the preliminary results from the first week of operation. "Your parents are so proud." "You know," Sofia said softly, reaching across to squeeze Maya's hand. "We all are." Maya felt a lump in her throat. Her parents had initially been confused by her sudden career shift. They had always envisioned her working at an environmental agency, or perhaps a university after graduation. The concept of a community energy foundation backed by a venture capitalist had been hard to explain. But when the first projects broke ground in their own neighborhood, creating jobs and beginning to address the energy insecurity that had affected their family for years, they had understood. Some things didn't need elaborate explanations. Results spoke for themselves. "I'm still just doing what I always wanted to do," Maya said. "Finding ways to make clean energy work for everyone, not just those who can afford fancy systems." "But now you have the resources to actually make it happen," Sofia pointed out. "That makes all the difference." After lunch, Maya hugged her aunt goodbye and headed back toward the office. She had a few minutes to spare, so she took a detour past the community center where the main control system for the microgrid was housed. Through the windows, She could see a group of high school students gathered around the monitoring displays, part of the STEM education program that had grown alongside the energy project. Their teacher was explaining how the system balanced supply and demand in real time. While the students asked questions and took notes, Maya smiled, remembering her own high school days, when clean energy had seemed like a distant dream rather than a growing reality. She had been lucky to find supportive teachers who encouraged her interest in environmental science, but opportunities for hands-on learning had been scarce. Now, students from her old high school were getting actual experience with cutting-edge energy systems. Some might go on to careers in renewable energy, bringing desperately needed diversity to a field that had historically been dominated by people from very different backgrounds. Others might simply become more informed citizens, understanding the complex trade-offs involved in energy transitions. Either way, this was perhaps the outcome that made Maya proudest. The educational ripple effects that would continue long after the initial project was complete. Her phone buzzed with a text from Layla Patel, the CEO of Green Grid Solutions. Panel confirmed for next month's conference. You, me, Alexander, and community rep, your aunt. Topic: redefining success in energy transitions. Maya quickly replied her thanks, making a mental note to discuss the panel with her aunt. Sophia had initially been reluctant to speak at professional conferences, feeling out of place among energy experts and business leaders. But her perspective as both a community member and a program coordinator had proven invaluable in helping others understand the human factors that made projects succeed or fail. Back at the office, Maya had barely settled in when her assistant knocked on the door. "Alexander is here to see you," she said. "He's early for the meeting." Before Maya could respond, Alexander appeared behind the assistant. 6 months had done nothing to diminish his commanding presence, though Maya now saw him more as a mentor than an intimidating figure. "Hope I'm not interrupting," he said, entering her office. "I was in the neighborhood and thought we could chat before the team meeting." "Not at all," Maya said, gesturing to a chair. "Thomas showed me the West Side numbers. They're even better than we projected." Alexander nodded, his expression thoughtful. "They are. Which is why I want to discuss expansion. The results are strong enough to justify rolling this model out to 5 more communities by the end of the year." Maya's eyes widened. 5 more? That's ambitious. We'd need to scale up our community engagement team, develop training programs for local workers, coordinate with utilities in different areas. "All true," Alexander agreed. "And that's exactly why I'm here. The foundation needs a director of community programs to oversee this expansion, someone who understands both the technical aspects and the community dynamics, someone who has already proven they can bridge different worlds effectively." Maya stared at him. "You mean me? But I'm still finishing my degree. I've only been working in this field for 6 months." Alexander smiled. 6 months in which you've designed a successful community ownership model, coordinated with regulatory agencies, helped secure additional funding, and built strong relationships with community leaders. Your combination of technical knowledge, innovative thinking, and community connection is exactly what we need." "I don't know, Alexander," Maya said hesitantly. "That's a big step up in responsibility." "It is," he acknowledged. "And you're ready for it. The position would accommodate your class schedule, and your thesis work would actually complement the role perfectly. Dr. Chen has already expressed her support. In fact, she suggested it." Maya took a deep breath, considering. 6 months ago, she had been a student working part-time jobs and cleaning hotel rooms to make ends meet. Now she was being offered a leadership position at a foundation that was actually implementing the changes she had always dreamed of making. "Can I think about it?" she asked finally. "Of course," Alexander said, standing. "Take the weekend to consider. But Maya, remember what I told you that first night at the gala? Your voice belongs in these conversations, now more than ever." After Alexander left, Maya turned to her computer to write up her notes before the team meeting. As she typed, her eyes drifted to a framed photo on her desk. A picture taken at the West Side Project ribbon-cutting ceremony last month. There she stood, surrounded by community members, foundation colleagues, and her family, all beaming with pride in front of the new solar array. In the 6 months since that fateful day at the Meridian Grand, Maya's life had transformed in ways she could never have predicted. But as she reflected on the journey, she realized it wasn't really about her unexpected meeting with Alexander Reed. That had been luck, a random collision of different worlds. What mattered was what happened afterward, the way she had stayed true to her knowledge and values, the courage she had found to step into unfamiliar territory, and the bridges she had helped build between communities that rarely connected. She hadn't needed to become someone else to succeed. Instead, she had brought her whole self, her education, her community ties, her personal experiences, to the table. And that authentic perspective had proven to be her greatest strength. Maya smiled and returned to her notes, preparing for the meeting where they would plan the next phase of work. There were still challenges ahead, problems to solve, and systems to change. The journey was far from over, but today, in this moment, she allowed herself to feel the simple joy of doing meaningful work that mattered, work that connected her education with her community's needs, work that brought together different worlds to create something better than either could achieve alone. Maya gathered her notes and stood to head to the conference room. As she walked through the door, she paused for a moment, thinking about the cleaning cart she had pushed through the Meridian Grand just 6 months ago. That day, she had been invisible to most of the hotel guests, just another person in a uniform performing a service. Now, people listened when she spoke. Her ideas shaped projects affecting hundreds of families. Her experience informed decisions about millions of dollars in investments. And yet, she knew that her time pushing that cleaning cart had been valuable too. It had given her insights that many of her colleagues would never have. Thomas appeared in the hallway, waving a stack of reports. "Ready for the meeting?" Maya nodded, closing her office door behind her. More than ready. As they walked together toward the conference room where the team was gathering, Maya thought about her conversation with Alexander. Director of Community Programs. The title still felt surreal, but the work, that felt right. It felt like exactly where she was meant to be. "You know," Thomas said as they approached the meeting room, "when Alexander first told me about meeting you, I thought it was just another one of his impulsive mentoring projects. I didn't expect all this." He gestured toward the busy office around them, the maps of future project sites, the community members coming in for a training session. Maya smiled. "Neither did I. But that's the thing about unexpected opportunities. They show you possibilities you never imagined for yourself." "So, Director Rodriguez," Thomas said with a grin, "ready to tell us how we're going to change 5 more communities this year?" Maya laughed, straightening her shoulders as they entered the room full of colleagues waiting to hear her thoughts. "Absolutely. Let's get started." The room quieted as she took her place at the table, and Maya felt a moment of perfect clarity. Her journey had taken an unexpected turn when she covered her aunt's shift that day. But the path she was on now, building bridges between worlds, creating sustainable solutions, empowering communities, had been inside her all along, waiting for the opportunity to emerge. As she began to outline her vision for the expansion, Maya knew with certainty that this wasn't just a fairy tale ending. It was a beginning, the start of work that would continue to evolve and grow, facing new challenges and creating new opportunities along the way. And she was ready for all of it.